More big news for Nebraska football on the recruiting front. So what's left for the Huskers to accomplish this month?
You are Locked On Nebraska, your daily Nebraska Cornhuskers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen every day. We are free and available wherever you get podcasts and on YouTube, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, the #1 sports podcast network, your team every day.
All right, welcome Monday here on the Locked On Nebraska podcast. A surprise to me.
Is it Monday?
Yeah, apparently, you told me this last night, and I was a little surprised by it, but here we are. I am Connor Happer alongside Mitch Sherman. Plenty of things to get to from a busy weekend around Husker land and Banana land, of course, as well. And then there are the things that are going on in Omaha at the College World Series. But yeah, let's get to some recruiting stuff. There's more after another big weekend of recruiting here.
We are also going to discuss the life and career of George Darlington, Nebraska's longtime assistant coach who passed away on Sunday in the second segment. So some memories to share there. But we will start with recruiting. Two more commits for Nebraska over the weekend with its second big weekend in the month of June, second big visit weekend. So number one, Caleb Green is a flip from Missouri. This is a 3-star prospect out of Lee Summit North High School. It's a familiar sounding high school because it's the school that Isaiah Mosey and Williams Winery attended, and Jamar Mosey spent time as the head coach at. Green, 6'1", 215. He's the second linebacker in this class that joins Eli Harris from Loganville, Georgia, another fruitful school for Nebraska, specifically in this recruiting class. Green is the brother of Caden Green, who was a former top 100 recruit, much larger of the two Greens. Caden Green is a left tackle, started at Oklahoma and then transferred to Missouri. Could have been an NFL draft pick last year, but chose to come back for his senior year in the SEC. So some good bloodlines, some good connections to the Nebraska program, and it seems like an excellent fit. So they have Eli Harris and Caleb Green at the linebacker spots, both corralled this month in recruiting.
And there's something about a flip. I love a flip. I love when a guy goes straight committed to one school and then to your school as the
it's kind of a double-edged sword, the flip, because they can come back to bite you as well. Yeah. So Nebraska now has flips from it's very exciting. Nebraska has flips from Minnesota and the defensive end who's from Utah, and then now also from Missouri. So those are good schools to get flips from. Like if you're getting flips from like
UTEP.
I was going to say UConn, but if you're getting close. But then it's not as exciting as it is if you get flips from Missouri and Minnesota. So then wide receiver Justin Lindsay, he's 6'3", 175. He also committed over the weekend. He's not a flip. He replaces the decommitment of Caden Howard, who flipped from Nebraska. See, it works that way too, to Georgia Tech just last week. Lindsay had an offer from Iowa, but overall was one of the more lightly recruited players in this class. No matter, you see the size there. He goes to Blue Springs High, I believe, but he previously attended Lee Summit North. So there's another Mosey connection, and Lee Summit South as a freshman in high school. So 3 schools in 3 years. Played last season as a junior at Blue Springs. The Nebraska Kansas City contingent is out and doing their stuff again. Lindsay is like a throwback recruit for Nebraska and Matt Rhule, like an old school guy. He's a track star. He anchors Blue Springs 4x200 relay that placed in the top 5 in the state of Missouri and this recent spring.
Okay, cool. Little kind of like a late round flyer type of guy. That's good, but obviously they had the
like the size
in the class. You know what's funny? When guys flip, the school that it's getting flipped from always is like, they didn't
it was
really
mutual.
Yeah, as usual. They were souring on him anyway, so they kind of just let him go. When he expressed an interest in the other school. I always love that conversation. That's always a lot of fun. You can't lose in recruiting, really.
No.
You can, but you can't.
It might be true, and sometimes it might be true, and a lot of times it might be true, and we just won't know. We won't know for about 2 years, and then you'll have an idea as to whether.
By then we won't care.
Yeah, but right, you don't even remember that he flipped at that point. Yeah. Then you will know. Okay, yeah, that school was blowing smoke when this guy is, a freshman All-American or whatever. And usually, I don't, no disrespect, but more often than not, it works the other way, where it's like, yeah, okay, I see why. I see why they let that player go. He's in the transfer portal, or whatever. So with wide receivers in this class, Nebraska has Tay Ellis, of course, the Texas product, who is at Millard South with Trey Taylor, and now Justin Lindsay. And then there is a wide receiver coming in this weekend, a rescheduled visit from one that was once earlier in the month of June. A heavy Penn State lean. You're talking about a top 100 player nationally, Khalil Taylor. Might be we asked the question at the beginning of this show, like, what's left for Nebraska to accomplish this month? And sure, yeah, you'd like to close on somebody who visited that first week of June. You'd like to get Ahmad Hudson, absolutely, but like that's not ending. Like that's not coming to a close here in June. You'd like to get Albert Simeon, but frankly, that would be a giant upset for Nebraska, and they'll continue to try to push for that as the recruiting cycle goes on. But this Khalil Taylor, the wide receiver from Pittsburgh, who is scheduled for an official visit this upcoming weekend, the weekend of Friday, June 19th, and he's going to be on that official visit with Trey Taylor, with Torrey Pittman, Amir Brown, Nebraska's running back commit, Tay Ellis, Matt Erickson, the lineman from Millard North, a bunch of committed players, and then Khalil Taylor. So you can imagine who the focus for Nebraska will be as they go through trying to add to that class with 18 commits now here in the third weekend of June.
I do like the sound of a top 100 player wide receiver. That sounds like a good idea. So, like you said, Nebraska 18 commits, 9 on each side of the ball right now. And you have a top 100 player on each side. Trey Taylor is a top 10 player. If you look at the correct recruiting rankings, right, of course, as we talked about.
Which one's correct? Which one's correct about Trey?
24/7.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, he's number 8 on that. So that's until somebody else ranks him higher. That's the correct one. And then Torrey Pittman on the defensive side, who there is at least a little swirling concern that his commitment may not be rock solid. He made a visit to LSU over the weekend.
I read an On3 report, so it's going to be like purple tinted or gold tinted. It was from the LSU. Sorry, not because it's On3, because it was the LSU On3 site. About his visit, and then there were several others in Baton Rouge this weekend that the Tigers and Lane Kiffin were working on, either trying to flip or get in the fold for LSU, and they were a little bit down on the chances of Pittman flipping to LSU. It was like don't be surprised if he ends up being staying with Nebraska. So for whatever that's worth, Pittman will be in kind of as the defensive anchor for Nebraska this coming weekend as the recruiting hits its like stretch run in the month of June. Interestingly, this weekend is also the NE Prep 7-on-7 tournament at I believe it's at Bellevue West, with all of the top teams from the Metro playing in that. And you'll have Omaha West Side and Braylon Warren there. You'll have Millard South with Taylor and Ellis. Taylor was in California this last weekend, dropping dimes in LA at a 7-on-7 event, and saw some highlights from that. Still looked like a 5-star. Hasn't lost it. That's and good. Then he'll be doing that. He'll be doing that in Omaha. So I guess he'll be going back and forth between Omaha and Lincoln for his official visit. Lots of he's juggling. He's wearing many hats this upcoming weekend, but that's nothing new for Trey Taylor.
Yeah, he's got a lot of jobs. He's busy around this time of year. That's for sure. So there's your weekend recruiting roundup. When we come back, we will talk about the loss of a Nebraska legend after this. First word from Indeed. Workplace chaos can show up fast. Deadlines are stacking up. Projects need attention. And on top of everything else, you're trying to fill an important role. The problem is finding the right candidate can take a lot more than most businesses can afford. That's where Indeed Sponsored Jobs comes in. Indeed Sponsored Jobs helps you reach candidates who actually fit what you're looking for on skills, experience, and location. So you're spending less time sorting through applications and more time talking to qualified people who can help your business succeed. Finding the right person can make all the difference, whether it's building a business or building a winning team. The organizations that consistently succeed know how important it is to identify the right talent and put them in position to thrive. You do not want to be in a position where you are choosing one or the other. You can make sure the workflow on the home front is rolling steady, and then get Indeed to help you out with putting the right people on your team. And one great addition can have the ripple effect on everyone around them. So remember that too in the hiring process. Spend less time searching and more time actually interviewing candidates who actually check all your boxes. Less stress, less time, and more results. When you need the right person to cut through the chaos, this is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to help your job get the premium status it deserves at Indeed.com/podcast. Indeed.com/podcast right now. Support our show by saying you heard about us on Indeed on this podcast. Indeed on this podcast, rather. Indeed.com/podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Need to hire? This is a job for Indeed Sponsored Jobs. Welcome back, and thanks for making Locked On Nebraska your first listen and for making Locked On the #1 sports podcast network. Join the Everydayer Club today. Ad-free episodes to this very show and access to the Discord and more. Check out the link in the description to this episode. Sad news on Sunday. Nebraska announced the passing of longtime football assistant coach George Darlington, a guy who never stopped being around the program, even through his really final days and months. He was an assistant at Nebraska for 30 years, 1973 to 2002, and served as an assistant longer than any coach in the history of Nebraska football. And then, like I said, continued to stay around afterwards. So George Darlington, 87 years old. I mean, I think of a lot of different things when he comes, but first, the first thing I think of is sharing moments watching more recent Nebraska football games near George in the press box during games.
Yeah, I didn't even write anything down in our little show notes that we have scribbled out about this, because I could probably talk for an hour. It's just about George, and so I am fortunate enough to have the memories of him, not just hanging out in the press box with us, with like writers and broadcasters and bloggers and podcasters. I mean, he just fit right in. Like, you'd walk into the press box in any recent season for a game, or it could be on the practice field in the times where we got access to practice. And there was George. In later years, he was in a chair, but 10 years ago, he's stomping around on the sidelines. Oh, he would always be offering advice. And he was a friend of every head coach who came through Nebraska. I would say even at the beginning of this musical chairs that Nebraska has played with its coaches. Like, George left, he retired. You might say that it was like it wasn't retiring in the greatest position, because it was 2002 and things were going awry. It was a 7-7 season, and Frank Solich made some changes to his staff, and George and Milt Tenopir retired, and now we've lost both of them, which just pops into my head as I say that. And Bill Callahan came in, and George Darlington was around, and then Bo Pelini came in, and George Darlington was around, and Mike Riley and Scott Frost, and this latest coach, this current coach, Matt Rhule, may have been the one who embraced George the most. They would be seen standing, at one edge of the practice field, and George would be telling in the year that Rhule, first couple years before Mike Eckler came on board, and there was a lot of talk about, you remember this, about some special teams woes that the Nebraska football program had. Well, George would have coached the return specialists in his time at Nebraska, and he had thoughts on everything. So he would have had ideas for how Nebraska could improve its punt game, improve its coverage game, whatever. And he would be more than willing to share them with Matt Rhule, or with you, or with me, or anyone who might be willing to listen. So a fantastic coach to interview, so full of energy and color. There were many times that's hyperbole, but there were times where I was out in California, whether it was for a Nebraska game at UCLA or USC or a bowl game, or I was, profiling Adrian Martinez or TJ Lateef, or, players that go way back, and any school or football environment that I ever walked into in California, he was the first name. When Nebraska came up, he was the first name that was mentioned by older coaches, younger coaches, athletic directors, whatever. Like, everybody knew George out there and loved him.
Know George? Yep.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, of course. You can't be around the football program for more than 10 seconds and not know George Darlington. Like, the same is the case for me, Mitch. I mean, I'm certainly not around it as much as you are, and certainly not within the last couple of years, but going to any practice, and then like I said before, just sitting where the radio guys kind of are at the at the football games. George is like 2 seats over from us, and some of the commentary during games is just absolute gold. It's fantastic. He absolutely had opinions on the football program, because he cared so much about the football program and put so much time and effort into it.
He also didn't care to have a filter. Like, and that wasn't just when he was in his 80s. He was like that as an assistant coach. There were times, I remember, going back, and I was absolutely not around him in his early days. He joined Osborne's staff the first year in 1973. But in Tom's last 5 years of coaching, I was around as a student journalist, journalist in quotation marks. And Darlington was, one of the first who I got to know. And I remember at times thinking, okay, if I'm writing about player X, I'm going to go talk to George about him. And this could be a running back or a wide receiver or a quarterback, of course, the DB, the position that he coached. But it was always very easy to go to George because he would talk a lot, and he would fill up your notebook or tape recorder with quotes and observations about this player. And he was brutally honest. If he thought that somebody had not spent enough time in the weight room or was loafing at practice, whatever, he would say nice things about the players like coaches do, but he would really truly tell you what he thought. And in his retirement days, that he became even more of an open book with his thoughts and opinions about not just Nebraska football, but about whatever it was that he might have been talking about at that time.
I think that one of the last times I went to an open practice, this is probably a year or two ago. Practices are sort of frenetic and they move and they're going from inside the indoor to outside, and things are transitioning really quickly. And George was sitting in a chair, basically in the garage door opening for the Hawks in the indoor facility. And there's traffic that goes through there, and people are moving through there fast, and Matt Rhule comes by, and he notices that he's there for the first time and stops absolutely everything he's doing, around him, and just, stops and chats with him for a couple minutes. And it was tough to get away from George, because he would just talk about, whatever was on his mind for a couple minutes, and Rhule did not seem to mind at all, and he didn't. So the respect that almost every coach after Osborne had for George Darlington and being around the program was very, very evident. And we're going to miss seeing him around. That's for sure.
It's one of the great things about Rhule, is that he did go out of his way to embrace both Osborne and Darlington. And I think Darlington was like was Matt Rhule's first window, aside from Trev Alberts, but someone who was outside of the program. And George wasn't really outside the program, but was not getting a paycheck from the program.
Right.
Darlington was the first, I think, to develop that kind of a connection with Rhule, which really allowed him insight into what Nebraska football was on a historic level. And, George and Tom were just such unusual mates. Like, their personalities could not have been more different. And yet they coached together for all 25 years of Osborne's time at Nebraska, the greatest 25-year run in the history of the program. They were there, and there were, buffers between them. I suppose you could say, like, Charlie McBride might have been a bit of a buffer between George and Tom, but George would tell Tom, like, if he thought Tom was doing something the wrong way and they needed to make a change, whether it was in a game or with the structure of their program, George did not hesitate to tell that to Tom. Like, I think that in the 90s, they changed the way they played. Well, I know they changed the way they played defense, and they also changed the way that they recruited defensive backs. It wasn't, if you look at the defensive backs in the 80s and the 70s, and this might just be like a college football trend, but they were receivers who maybe didn't make it as receivers, either in high school or in college, and they'd come over and play DB. Well, that changed with Ralph Brown and Mike Brown and Tyrone Williams and Baron Miles and all of those guys who Nebraska sent a ton of DBs to the NFL, and George was at the forefront of developing those players and also recruiting those players.
No doubt. We'll miss him around a ton. George Darlington, 87 years old, passed away on Sunday. We'll take a quick break and come back and round things out next.
All right, a message from Rougiette. Throughout these NHL finals, and they are now over, congrats to the Carolina Hurricanes, every shift matters. Every moment was intense. Everything came down to execution when the pressure was at its highest. And just like those athletes must be ready to perform when the puck drops, a lot of guys want that same sense of readiness and confidence in their own lives too. That's where Rougiette comes in. Rougiette offers modern, performance-focused treatments designed to help you be ready when it matters. Their top option, Rougiette Ready, is a fast-acting, clinically proven formulated treatment that comes in a simple mint that dissolves under your tongue. It's designed for convenience with fast absorption and effects that can begin in about 15 minutes. They may last up to 36 hours. They also offer Go Long, which is formulated to support both performance and control for longer-lasting needs. It's about helping guys feel prepared, confident, and in control. In the playoffs, readiness was not optional. It means everything. And for a lot of guys, that idea of being ready at the right moment carries over into everyday life. That's what Rougiette is built around, because you want to be prepared. More than anything, it's about confidence and being ready. So check out Rougiette. It lets you stay focused and in the moment. Head to rougiette.com/lockedonnhl and get 15% off your ED treatment. That's RUGIET.com/lockedonnhl for 15% off. Rougiette, performance medicine for men. So Saturday night at Memorial Stadium, 85,000 people packed into. I know you didn't. Were you aware that this was happening? You were at the College World Series where there were 25,000 people for Texas and Georgia. We'll talk about the College World Series here in a minute. I was at the College World Series watching Texas and Georgia, and I could not get away from the scenes, sights, and sounds from Memorial Stadium, where the Savannah Bananas and the firefighters played they dressed in uniforms and did things on a baseball field that was actually a football field.
That's right. I only saw a little bit of it at the time. And then
Looked
just
fun.
like everything else that has happened over the last 4 days, like I had to get like speed run caught up on everything like at 10:30 on each of these nights. And there was the same thing with the whole like McAfee Rocco's beef. And now we're at the Savannah, but I got to get caught up on the Savannah Bananas one, and I did. And I mean, gosh, they packed it in there like they have been for every college football stadium around the country. It's like they have the World Cup tour that's going on to college, facility, or had been for the last couple of weeks, and Savannah Bananas are going at the same time. It's a great time to be a big college football stadium in the summer where you're not hosting football games.
This is quite a sports week. I mean, the Savannah Bananas don't really register on the sports week nationally because they're doing this all the time. But for the World Cup and the NBA finals and the NHL finals and the College World Series getting going, and then you add in locally this, I mean, anytime you get 85,000 people into Memorial Stadium, it's a notable event. Now, I will say, I probably don't need to say this, but I will say it anyway. The Savannah Bananas it's baseball for people who don't like baseball. It's like a lot of entertainment and dancing and stilts and dancing and weird things, and then like a little bit of baseball. But they do a great job with outreach and embracing the communities that they play in. And I think that's the reason, like that's what they've found that makes them successful. They played on Friday night at a much smaller venue, Haymarket Park, you may have heard of it, in Lincoln, and they brought out Jabba Chamberlain, the beloved former Nebraska, New York Yankees, many other organizations pitcher who's retired for several years, lives in Lincoln, and he pitched in the game and recorded an out, got the Bananas out of an inning, and there was an emotional moment with Jabba. First time for him to be on the mound since the death of his father, Harlan. And Jabba pointed up to the sky. And like, if you know Jabba, like he wears it on his sleeve all the time, just like his dad did. And so that was really, really cool to see. Like I was prepared probably to kind of laugh at the Bananas a little bit more until I saw that they did that. And it's like, oh man, I can't dislike them. I can't be like this baseball purist kind of guy when they're doing something cool like that. And then they had Matt Rhule at the game on Saturday at Memorial Stadium, and they had Tom Osborne as their special guest. They brought out Coach Osborne to come out and make an appearance on the field named for him.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like you said, it's probably not for me. As we've talked about a lot, I think over the last several months since we knew this was going to happen, it's not something that I'm particularly interested in, but I absolutely understand the mass appeal that people have to it. And then at this point, like, I do think it sort of becomes like a competition between other college fan bases, slash college stadiums. Like, yeah, I mean, look at where they've been. Look at how much they pack them in. We're going to do that too. And then there's a demand thing about they do a lottery for their tickets and things like that as well. And they're very, very, very fan and family friendly. So there's definitely a mass
kids
appeal.
love it.
Yeah, there's a huge mass appeal to what they do. You should see the kids I'm sure you have at the College World Series that have Savannah Bananas jerseys on. So I mean, I think Nebraska did it as well as they could have hoped, and as well as most of the other colleges have done it too around the country.
It's something unique when they have a dancing umpire who then spends days in the community after the game making apperances. I believe his name
is that guy from here? I feel like he's from here.
Is he? He could be. Is Vincent? Vincent is the umpire's name. He was at Warner Park dancing on top of the dugout on Sunday. I believe he's going to be at the Omaha Baseball Village on Monday, making an appearance. I heard some chatter about that. I'm sure he'll make his way into Charles Schwab Field, the stadium where the College World Series is being contested at some point here early this week too. So this is the umpire It's not even like one of the players or the owner or the coach. It's the dancing umpire. So
Yeah, I don't know. I couldn't find any hits on him being from here, but I don't know why I thought that.
It's does it say anything to you? This banana mania and the 85,000 in Memorial Stadium. Like this is Troy Dannon's thing. This is his vision. He wants to have events like this at Memorial Stadium. He's cool, like taking the field and turning it into a baseball looking thing. Some might cover their eyes at the sacred ground of Memorial Stadium, but whatever. And
that ground has been broken long ago.
They've had the concerts and
this one was a layup. I mean, this is the easiest decision ever. You know, like they're doing their college stadium tour, and Nebraska wants to do events, whatever. But you're not saying no to this. It's a perfect match. So this was one of the things. I think they'll do concerts and sort of other creative things like that. But this one was the easiest one on the books. It was like, the Savannah Bananas or we haven't gotten the Bud Crawford fight yet, but like this was the other one that was the easiest one.
Ooh. Hey. There's this announcement coming this weekend at the Battle of the Boneyard on June 20th, which is Saturday. The Nebraska, the camp, the 7-on-7 thing that they're doing at the stadium, and they're trying to get a lot of fans to come in and be there for this big announcement that Matt Rhule has teased. I mean, could this involve Bud Crawford? I don't know.
It could. I'm starting.
Might that topic be revisited?
I don't know. Could be, but I haven't given it any extra thought on what it.
I don't have any inside information on this.
No, I don't think anybody does. So I guess we're just in wait and see mode for the next 5 days.
That leads us into this. We want to finish the show talking a little bit about the College World Series and other things, but I just wanted to play this here.
Happy.
Oh yeah.
Hey, corner.
Who was that?
You might be wondering where that's from, what that is. Hope everybody could hear that. Was the volume high enough on
I
that?
heard it. I heard it.
Okay, we could play the full version.
Sideline reporter for Western One Sports. Hope you join John Bishop at Corner Happy. Hey, corner. Corner. Yeah, Mom. Telephone.
I don't have any explanation.
Who were those people? Who's saying those things? So
if you're a listener to podcasts, you probably are familiar with Schick and Nick, Matt Schick, Nick Baugh, friends of ours. We often make references to them. I think it's like a cultural thing within sports and media in the state of Nebraska. No, isn't it at this point? Like wonderful. I mean, it is.
It's burned into my brain. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I was driving down to the stadium to cover the evening game on Sunday night, won by North Carolina against West Virginia, and was listening to their show, stuck in traffic. There's no good way to get to the stadium or out of the stadium, I've discovered in this day.
Not for you. Okay, so I live on the north side of town. Like I'm like in the Fort area now.
Yeah, that's a way. That's a way.
So I have discovered. I mean, I've discovered this long ago, but the Northway 680 North around like by the airport and then sneak in Lot D there is not.
Isn't there a construction that way too? Do you have to go on 30th Street, or can you actually take the like Abbott Drive to JJ?
Yeah.
Can you go by the water treatment plant and everything? It's
Absolutely.
open.
We're full back. Yeah, the North Interstate is not a bad idea.
It's bad for me because I live near
Gretna.
for you.
Yeah,
yeah, but I might have to consider it. One night I sat on Cumming Street trying to get up to the interstate.
Oh, no.
Last night
it's better when you're leaving because you got everyone's going the same exact place. Yeah, so you just take.
I went south yesterday. It wasn't a whole lot better.
Take a right out Lot D and get out of there.
take a right. You that toward the airport? Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I guess I could go that way and then circle back to the south, but I may try that. Anyway, I had 45 minutes in the car on the drive down to, which should not be 45 minutes. So I listened to that whole episode of Chick and Nick, and I was blessed
Corny happy.
very much with
Hey, Corny.
I don't even know why they were talking about that. They were reliving College World Series moments of their own, which they pretty much do every year on the show, and they make fun of themselves. And somehow they got to talking about Westwood One, which
I can't hear air.
Yeah, they both have been in your shoes. They both have worked. Well, Nick, I think more for ESPN during the series, but Matt absolutely worked for Westwood One, doing what you do, and that came up. So I wanted to play that. We'll have to play to find times throughout the year to play that again.
It's been fun, and now is the time, and like we're going into Monday, we're going into day 4, and now's the time when we start to get a little like we're sending teams home. We're grinding a little bit here, so this is where the best stuff comes. If you haven't joined us yet on either 1620 The Zone locally or on Westwood One or on Sirius Channels 84, join us this week because now is when we start getting a little bit loopy.
Last question, have you had anything good to eat yet? Anything new, anything that people should try at the series this year?
No, I actually haven't had anything to eat. Nothing really.
All right, I'll report back because I have not tried any of the new items. I saw some stuff that there's some good new items. Maybe that'll be what I do for dinner tonight. I did get a strawberry banana smoothie. I needed something, and I didn't want to go all the way over to Zesto, but I needed something to kind of tide me through on Saturday night in the middle innings of Texas, Georgia. The day was dragging for me. I was there for 18 innings, and as you are every day. And so I went down to the concourse and grabbed, there's a stand with smoothies, and I got one of those. Otherwise, I've just like, I try during the series, like, not to go full like unhealthy, like completely unhealthy, just like lose like the other 51 weeks of the year of trying to like be somewhat
mix in a banana.
Yeah. So the first day they put out fruit snacks, which was a new item in the media buffet. And I said, no, I'm not. I mean, I know there's worse things you could have, but I just don't, it's not something that I need to be eating. I don't need just like the mindless sugar. So I've kind of been conservative and laid off like the different food opportunities that have come my way of being at a ballpark. Like I have not gone down and gotten like the like $38 nacho plate or something like that. But
there is always time for gluttony. And I think one of the days this week, the folks from the ballpark bring us up a bunch of food. So maybe today is that day. I have no idea.
Text me if that happens. I'd like to come over to your side of the press box and sample it if I could.
I got you.
Okay.
I got you.
All right.
Corny happy.
Thank you.
Hey, Corny. Okay.
All right.
That's enough. Okay. We'll be back on Tuesday to talk more about things that are happening in the world of Nebraska sports and our worlds as well. So thanks for tuning in today. Make sure you subscribe, follow Locked On Nebraska. Check out the Everydayer Club. That's there, built for you. Members only, Discord access, ad-free shows, and more. Link is in the show notes. For those of you on video, we're going to send you to the first ever 24/7 National Locked On Podcast Network YouTube channel. And if you're joining us on audio, make your second listen the Locked On College Football Show. Thanks for joining us.